march to the sound of thunder. Taurian banners raised high asunder. Steel on steel, you hear the echoes roar. Good times rhymes with war crimes evermore. Get off our lawn, Starling scum, we stand as one. You'd better run, paws of fury, hearts ablaze. War pugs thunder through the haze. From dusty plains to the jagged peaks, we guard our home through fire and sleet. No concordant will kneel or bow. Our cause is just, our time is now. Get off our lawn, Starling scum, we stand as one. You'd better run, paws of fury, hearts ablaze. War pugs thunder through the haze. We're snarling thunder,
It just happened.
relentless charge.
It just happened. Hold on a
Our
second.
anthem shakes the void at large. Bulldogs of justice, sharp and bold.
War pugs.
Our legacy.
Praise the Emperor. We are at 40,000.
We howl for freedom. We rage for peace. Our battle cries will never
Right when I was sitting here listening to the intro music,
the war pugs rise. Unstoppable tide.
right when I was listening to the intro music, I hadn't even set up the actual.
Side by side. Get off our lawn, Starling scum.
Thank you
we
all.
Stand as one. You better run, paws of fury, hearts ablaze. War pugs thunder through the haze. Woo! Thunder haze.
I'm gonna restart this. Give me a minute to hug my wife. 40K. War pugs, give me a minute. I have been watching this tracker all day. I have been watching this tracker all day up here. I actually put it up here. I actually put it up here, and legitimately, I was sitting there watching it throughout the course of the day, and it's been just steadily going, steadily going. I've been watching it, and right when I have everything up, I have everything set up, and when I went live, the moment I went live, everything was like, I was just sitting here going through, and it turned over right then. So just give me a minute, guys. Give me a second. I'm gonna hug my wife. I'll be right back. Just give me a second.
I met a little fella by the name of Warpug from the Free World League. Loud and very ugly, living his best pug life. Had him dreaming of being a much warrior pilot, sitting on his grandma's lap and he's fighting composed. The boy was shy away from nothing. That's a jag. Warpug pointed at it. I don't think it's a cat. I think this person might be my dad. little master. Oh no, excuse me, my hand slipped, destroyed by accident. Warpug destroyed me again. Warpug destroyed another lance. Like he said he would know, he didn't even apologize. Warpug did it to you. Are you little warpug? Not like the kindest guy. Unsportsmanlike, shoot your legs and warpug die. An eye for an eye, a man 5'9" and a hateful rise. Shooting DCK players like they shot Cujo. Little pug dog with a burgundy coat. Warpug destroy me again. Warpug destroy me again. Warpug did it to you. Warpug destroyed another lance, like he said he would, and then laughed in your face at the beginning. Warpug did it to you, and laughed in your face again. He would, and then laughed in your face at the beginning. Warpug did it to you, and laughed in your face again. Like you say he would, and then laughed in your face at the beginning. Warpug did it to you, and laughed in your face again.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So here we are. I'm back. Guys, it's a thing. I literally had the tracker up. I was sitting here because, you know, just getting everything ready to go. I was getting everything ready to go today. And, I was at work today. I had the tracker up. I've had the tracker up even now, and I just watched. You know, I was just sitting there watching. I do watch League of Legends. Like I'm watching MSI right now when I have a shot, and oh my god!
Rename the stream.
I did.
Did you?
Yeah. I renamed the stream. Guys, the whole thing right here, I've been sitting here watching the entire time, and when the intro music was playing, I was sitting here going, you know, it'll be great. Yeah, well, you know, I've been sitting here for a while going, God, the number just turned over. And then I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, let's put this up there. We'll have it on the stream, everything like that. It'll be great. And I had everything going. Had the intro, everything, all that kind of good stuff. And I watched that number just turn over, and I was just like, oh my god. Warpugs, 40,000. We've hit another milestone. We hit another milestone. And that back there is already reserved.
When you hit that 100K
Yep.
and get that plaque.
MN01, what's up? So I am releasing a video. It has taken me time to actually do some stuff with it. But I am releasing a video that I'm hoping that you guys enjoy. And I'm hoping that I'm up in the air right now, guys. But it's taken me a little bit of time. And I remember when, like, way back in the day, when I was sitting there looking at this, and I was sitting there going, okay, what's it gonna be like? What's it gonna be? You know, Am I going to hit 3,000 subscribers? Am I going to hit 3,000 subscribers? And I just sat there and stared at it for a little bit. And I didn't know what to do when it rolled over. I have no idea what to do now.
Baby, I remember you cried when it hit 10,000.
Yeah, I was a wreck when it hit 10,000. I was an absolute wreck. And the thing about it is, guys, I'm sitting here looking at this, and I just don't even know what to make of it. A channel that started off as a 40K channel hitting 40,000. That's irony. Oh my goodness.
40,000 for a channel that started as Warhammer 40K.
Are you Fox Leader? If I get a button, if I, you know what? Not if, Warpugs. When we have that play button, I'm gonna ask Kentucky Ballistics. I will ask Kentucky Ballistics to do just that. I'll just say it, and that will be nice.
Hank Hill's right. Just like I told you, you should stream while it was counting down.
Yeah.
He said if you're not doing something and it's close, you start to stream the next big one.
Yeah, I know. Guys, some things right off the bat. People, I want to just thank you to all of you that are currently in here right now. Everybody that shows up for live streams, everybody that hits the subscribe button, all the patrons, all the members. Like this whole experience of being on YouTube and everything like that has really changed my life. Fox Leader, no, it was I'm not sure what that was, so yeah, I have no idea what that was. Hank, I actually was thinking about doing just that, streaming for a little bit. Would you stop it? God, she's just beating me. Alfarius, and see, this is the thing. I remember when a lot of people that are in the chat now, some people that are in the chat now actually first started showing up.
Somebody asked if the ceiling was leaking?
I thought the ceiling was leaking the other day. It was probably just me being an idiot. But, guys, it's Battletech Tuesday. Why does this always happen when I'm streaming? But today we're going to be jumping back into Battletech, of course. Why not? You guys don't really know this, but for me, I sit down and I think she knows. For me, she knows, the hospitaler knows as far as I sit. When you guys send me emails, like the emails that I've gotten from some of you and the stories that some of you have told me, they have meant the world to me. And my biggest fear, as far as, she knows this really well about me, my biggest fear is I won't get to joke around with everyone the way I'm able to joke around with you guys and get to know some of you the way that I've gotten to know some of you, like Black Wolf and his family, like Fox Leader, like Mitch showing up and being the way he is right here, Prophet, MNO1, and Hobbit. Hobbit has been here since before I think I was even had 1,000 subscribers. I remember his comments way back in the day. It's been so different for me seeing the channel grow and continue to grow, and watching some of the community start their own channels and begin putting themselves out there, which I've been insisting. I've been saying, if you guys want to do it, you should try. If you guys want to do something, you should try. You should always give your things a shot. If Animal, thank you, bud. Thank you. You should always try, because the worst thing that can happen is you do nothing. And I want you guys to know, as much as some of you say that I have done for you guys, as much as some of you guys have messaged me and said I have done for you, you have done for me an immense amount. And I don't think I can actually articulate to you guys what you have done for me as a community, and what this whole experience has meant for me. This channel and the whole everything about it has completely changed the way I live my life, and completely changed my outlook and the way that I, interact with everything, and the way that I look at things. So in continuance with that, I'm gonna tell you guys right now, this channel is going to remain dedicated to interests. This channel is gonna remain dedicated to interests, and dedicated to things that we all enjoy. It's going to remain dedicated to hobbies and lore and just ridiculousness. It's never going to be about left or right. It's never going to be about political or anything like that, or religion or anything of that nature, except for the God Emperor of Mankind and the Space Amish and any other weirdness that we happen across the way. It's never going to be any of that kind of stuff, guys. This is a place where we get together and forget everything else and just focus on the things that we all collectively enjoy, regardless of anything else.
If it wasn't for this community and this wonderful group of people that has become a family to us, we wouldn't have this house.
Nope.
We wouldn't have my homestead starting and my channel starting.
Right.
We wouldn't be where we are, where we actually are starting to breach the area where we have some comfort.
Mm-hmm.
It has been hard work on your part, but the support of the people that have joined you along the way and friends you have made is immeasurable.
Yeah. I have met so many people. Like, I'll tell you this, when I will tell you guys this. When this channel was right about, and this is just me talking, and I'm sorry I'm talking so much. Some of you guys just want to see the video, but
You're emotional, that's okay.
I am emotional. When this channel first started, when this channel really started to turn around, I will tell you guys something that you guys don't know. When this channel was just barely on, when I was on the verge of stopping.
They're wondering where the Smushmallow is. Why don't you tell them where that went?
What?
The Smushmallow, the pug stuffed animal that was behind you all this time. From the
Dominic?
Dominic. Tell them where Dominic
She's using
is.
him as a pillow. Anyhow.
He's up on my bed.
I know. I had lost my career. I had lost my career. I was struggling to find where I was going to fit in. I was struggling to figure out what I was going to do. I was struggling to basically figure out how to do everything that I really wanted to do in terms of, just being myself.
You were at a place that you didn't feel like you belonged anywhere, and this community has given you someplace you belong.
Yeah. Well, and when I was sitting there, when me and the hospitaller moved from Reno to Indiana, because we were on the verge of losing the place that we lived at in Reno.
You couldn't afford it.
We couldn't afford it anymore. We moved to Indiana, and I was living in a place in Indiana where quite simply put, before we came out here, where we were living then, it was a ramshackle place that
Should've been gone.
nothing worked. There was no anything. It was ugly. It was nasty. We constantly had to, you know, fix things and deal with it being so cold in the winter. It'd be 40 degrees in the living room in the winter.
And mice coming in everywhere.
Mice coming in everywhere. It was just a disgusting place, and I did not want you guys to see that. I didn't want you guys to see that. But it was the way that it was. And you guys have taken me out of that. And
Give us a home.
this is where I live now. I haven't done a house tour. It's because I want to get this place finished before you see it. Because this place is a fixer-upper. This place is a
I'll
fixer-upper.
tell you what, in comparison to what we were living in Indiana, this place is freaking
Yeah.
immaculate.
Yeah.
It needs a lot of work.
Needs
don't
a lot
get
of
me
work.
wrong, but it is ours.
And
It is
I'll tell you
someplace
this.
we own.
Let me show you guys this. And just because some of you might be wondering, I put up an Amazon list. of things that we were, just basically needing for the new house.
It's still
when
up.
we first moved here. I want to do something with these. These are the actual slips that came in from Amazon. I have kept every one. All of them. All of them have been kept. I have kept every single one that has come through the door where I can see here. I can read them off to you. Paint roller covers, paint trays. Used to do this stuff right here. Slipping through here. Read this. Acoustic foam panels. Right here. I have kept all of them. And it's my intention to, at some point when I have the capability, cast them in resin. And when I get my shelves, and I have the wood for the shelves now. I have the wood to build the shelves now. I just need to be able to do it. I have that ready to go. I have that ready to go. Warpugs, you guys have changed the way I live my life and changed my outlook. I am looking forward to at some point going into full-time content creation. When I do, I want to do lore about the same things that we enjoy. When I do, I want to show you guys what change you have made in my life. Like this is the Prime channel, the Hospitalist channel, guys.
It's slow to grow.
Well, hold on. She has ducks. She has chickens. I'm just saying. Jen Havoc, man, thank you so much. It is going amazing. I'm going to shut up now because I have been running my mouth for nearly 30 minutes. Warpugs, we have hit 40,000. We're here for the Banshee. Let's get set, Warpugs. Let's go. Oh my God. Oh, wow.
The clan invasion gave many warriors the chance to be a hero in the eyes of their people. Sadly, many of the Inner Sphere's heroes achieved their notoriety posthumously, often
Jacob,
fighting a desperate
everybody
delay
that sent a super
action
chat,
in the
thank you. I was
face of a
running my mouth,
seemingly
sorry.
unstoppable clan juggernaut. For the few who were lucky or good enough to not only survive, but to achieve some modicum of victory, such as the likes of Kai Allard Liao on
Avalon, you keep on. You keep on.
Everyone's the best.
You are fucking awesome. Keep on trucking.
Twycross. Legends were born.
Jacob, you too.
Ludwig von Naderhausen. Excerpt from Dark Times, The Clan Invasion, Avalon Press, 3075. A fifth devastating succession war appeared to be on the horizon on the march to the year 3050. The Captian Accord and Federated Commonwealth seemed destined to wage a new conflict against one another, and the outcomes for all sides were hardly assured. Over the 10 years that had passed since the War of 39, the Inner Sphere had developed significantly in regards to military innovations.
Give me a few days and I'll redesign you a Banshee Warpug refit. Nice! Nice! Thank you, bro.
More and more cutting-edge, Star League tech designs were finding their way into the general ranks
Oh yeah,
of
Timothy.
all of the armies of the Inner Sphere. Most major military formations were still composed of intro-tech battle mechs and equipment, barring elite units or small portions of larger assemblies of equipment. But this process of upgrade and redistribution was a vital effort by the Federated Commonwealth in the run-up to a potential new engagement with its now bitter rivals. Additionally and vitally, reforms to the military of the Federated Commonwealth resulted in the AFFC, or the Armed Forces of the Federated Commonwealth. The transfer of military traditions, organization, tactics, and general knowledge enhanced the military capabilities of the unified state in dramatic ways as well, though it had yet to be fully tested. And it was most definitely about to be.
Crib.
Damn straight it's quiet out there. Those pirates know damn well not to mess with us anymore.
Mistakes were made.
Hauptmann General Frederick Anderson, prior to the clan invasion. Operation Revival, as the clans called it, began months before the Inner
I
Sphere
don't know,
recognized
James.
it, with the invasion and destruction of the Oberon Confederation, as well as various micro-periphery states
Oof.
in the designated corridor the clans had opted to attack through. Arrogantly, the Inner Sphere powers, as piracy actively ceased, and as a wall of silence descended from this region, simply assumed that those beyond their borders had finally stopped their predatory and self-serving activities. This was the embodiment of hubris on behalf of the Inner Sphere powers, especially regarding their military intelligence. The official start date for the invasion according to the Inner Sphere was March of 3050, and for the Federated Commonwealth, their primary adversary was to be one of the most infamous military organizations in the history of mankind. That being Clan Jade Falcon.
Hooray!
The assault was unlike anything the Inner Sphere had experienced
Yes, Clan Jade Pigeon is coming in.
since the fall of the Star League. While clan military doctrine outside of very direct engagements left a lot to be desired, clan mech warriors were often fearless individuals who were extremely disciplined, and their military technology was more often than not centuries beyond what the Inner Sphere could hope to field in opposition.
Yay!
House military units across all of the defending powers, namely the Free Rossalite Republic, Draconis Combine, and Federated Commonwealth, were caught entirely ill-prepared, and with no game plan to address the problem.
Yes, Buck.
In the month of March alone, collectively the three powers lost 30 worlds to various clan opponents. Kerensky's children had returned, the descendants of the SLDF, and with them they did not bring the salvation so many yearned for in the war-ravaged Inner Sphere, but instead chaos, wrath, and a nightmarish society even fouler than the primitive state the human sphere had descended into. From the moment their invasion began, the very existence of the long-standing nations of the Inner Sphere was put into question. On the front lines, the defenders were overwhelmed, being forced into shameful surrender, destruction, or flight. There seemed to be almost no hope against the clans and their legendary, deadly machines like the Timberwolf, Nova, Summoner, and an assortment of others. Militarily and politically, there had to be a response. The great houses, particularly Steiner, Davian, and Karita, set aside their differences to combat this new threat. More refits were put into production. In addition, cutting-edge battle mechs, like the Gunslinger, were designed throughout the invasion.
See, this should let you know 100% that things were totally screwed, because while Kurita was kicking Davian's teeth in, they decided they were going to attack Steiner. Who knows why?
Was built to stop the clan's deadly war machines in their tracks. Very few of these variations of equipment came into production during the conflict itself, however. Between the invasion of the Periphery in 3049 and the Battle of Tukiad in 3052, only the comm guards fielded large numbers of advanced, purpose-built machinery to bring down the clan's
comm guards, no kidding.
By the end of the invasion, a great swathe of worlds had been
Exactly,
claimed by the
Minnow One.
clans. A few campaign battles on the Lyran front had proven that there was still the ability to fight back for the spheroids. Somerset and Twycross were victories, and ones which cemented the clans could be bested on the battlefield. But these examples were fleeting. During the fierce fighting that took place in this hellish campaign, the Banshee was a notable standout, even in its 3S configuration. Being able to trade blows with the clans as they invaded, this mech would have been a bulwark to lean against for any of the defenders in the Federated Commonwealth. Sadly, its slow gait, and some of the machine's other limitations, heavily hindered its ability to truly fight off the invaders of the Commonwealth.
Nice catapult in
Its
the back
Falcon
there.
opposition, and some of the Wolves as well, were too much for this powerful machine to handle, or really any other Lyran unit to handle.
Huh.
Even the mightiest of the Inner Sphere's battle mechs were swept aside.
And this all really goes back. That's a stalker. I'm an idiot. You know this. And that's an Aaron Darting Light Horse stalker too. Okay. My brain just failed. That happens. I was going to say something, but oh yeah, this is all of this comes back to the second war, the Second Secession War. The whole thing with the Second Secession War was Comstar basically being a bunch of idiots and deciding, hey, look, you know all that technology that you have? It'd be a shame if something happened to it.
Including, sadly, the Banshee. But during the invasion itself, a new design had been put forward in 3050. Such major upgrades are rarely done on the fly, meaning a retrofit had to be in the works for some time. But a new variant, the BNC-5S, was what the Federated Commonwealth needed to fight an invasion such as this. Subtle tweaks to the 3S, and the utilization of advanced Star League era technologies,
Hey,
made the
Enclave.
proposed 5S one of the first true battle mechs that could be quantified as a clan buster. A major feature of this biped that made this a reality was the reintroduction of extra light fusion engines. Why specifically in this case? Because the 5S is truly an evolution of what the Banshee was meant to be. It combines the philosophy of the original intention of the more mobile BNC-1E and BNC-3E, with the revolutionary shift towards raw firepower of the BNC-3S. In essence, it moves at the pace of the 3E, and has the devastating firepower of the 3S, if not more. While mainline production variants did not reach the front during the primary invasion years, it is unknown if any prototype models did so. Regardless, the BNC-5S was to be a very rude awakening for their clan adversaries when it truly emerged in 3053.
Let's see
And
it.
it arrived just in time, in numbers, to partake in some of the hardest fighting seen by the armies of the Great Houses. Raids took place along the borders between the Falcons and the Federated Commonwealth during the truce period after the Battle of Tukiad. Metal was tested against metal in the arms race across the Inner Sphere, and the 5S eclipsed its more primitive counterparts in terms of priority by this time. In fact, the 3S was gradually phased out, starting with the arrival of the 5S,
Yeah.
with it being placed on patrols to fight pirates and minor periphery states, instead of more dangerous security theaters. But the first true test for the 5S, and for its new political masters, came in 3058, during the era of the clan invasion, and still against clan opponents.
Ooh.
The world had changed dramatically since the invasion had started, but
It does look like a mech Master Chief, Alkius. I didn't even think about that until you said it, to be honest with you.
most of all in the Federated Commonwealth. Hans Davian had died of a massive heart attack, mostly caused by stress induced by military and political events.
Okay.
Melissa Steiner, his wife, was then assassinated by their power-hungry daughter, Catherine Steiner Davian.
Wow. Who couldn't see that coming? Who didn't see that coming? Did anybody?
Though she wasn't implicated in the murder at the time. Victor Steiner Davian, the eldest child of Hans and Melissa, reigned as the Archon Prince for only 2 years before his sister, Catherine, ripped the nation in two by taking power in what she now called the Lyran Alliance. Catherine's rise to power at first was welcomed, but it came about due to her exploiting uncertainties and resentment amongst the Lyran people over how disastrously things had unfolded for the Lyran half of the Commonwealth since the clans arrived.
Really? Really? The Lyran half of the Commonwealth has had a rough time of it. I wonder, and this is just a guess, if it's because you share a fucking border with the clans. Just a thought. Just a thought. I'm just doing a little bit of addition in my head here. My math may be wrong. Silent! You're sending me the tasting history book? Did you sign it? Did you sign it, bud? Appreciate it, man.
Manufacturing the
I'm
political
putting that back
realities
there.
she
That's going
needed,
up.
and exploiting what grievances she could. Catherine ruthlessly pushed towards having more power for herself at almost every opportunity. The last piece that came together for her to take the throne was when Joshua Merrick, the son of Captain General Thomas Hallis, the false Thomas Merrick, died on New Avalon, with the death
Who knows,
being covered
Alkius?
up by Victor. This caused Operation Guerrero, an assault by the Free Worlds League and Capellan Confederation, which tore into the link between the two states that made up the unified Commonwealth. With the support of the Lyran half of the military and intelligence services, Catherine was ushered into power, and began immediately attempting to purge subversive elements to her rule. With political chaos
hear you,
across the
Silent.
inner sphere, particularly
Weird
in
how
the
that
newly
works.
formed region known
Thank you,
as the
bud. I
Chaos
appreciate it.
March, and with turmoil and animosity between the two former halves of the unified Federated Commonwealth, an attack that functionally broke the Truce of Tukiad was unleashed by the Jade Falcons. Martha Pride, herself a recent ascendant leader of her people, was overseeing the reconstruction of the badly mauled Jade Falcon Tumen in the aftermath of the refusal war with Clan Wolf. The Falcons needed to prove that they were still a force to be reckoned with.
To be honest with you, MN01, Catherine Steiner, you can always just surmise that the leaders of people who have done great and horrible things will sit there and look at their grandchildren and wonder where they went wrong. Look not just at the Steiners. Look at the ruling dynasty of the Turian Concordant. Just to throw it in there. I'm just saying.
And their pride had been slighted for the last time.
Oh my
Unable
god.
and unwilling to strike out
Growl
against
Wolf.
the wolves in an ultimately self-defeating effort, Khan Pride opted to turn her attention once more to the inner sphere.
Who does she look like? Which actress does she look like? I'm just saying. She looks like... I don't even know. God, it's bothering me. Let's go.
I am content to let them choose which units to send here, Commander. We are at the truce line. They know they must stop us here, or the war will begin anew, and they will have to face all the clans. Their troops are doubtlessly already on their way. they will be some of their best units, too. We break them, and in doing so, break the spirit of the Lyran Alliance.
Okay.
And once we have done that, none will doubt the Jade Falcons, nor will they prevent us from taking whatever we desire.
Okay.
Martha Pride, discussing her plans. Coventry, 3058.
Ah, but our plans. They will soon be developing our plans, and they will know that we are planning our plans. Clanner's gonna clan.
On January 30th, 3058, after mustering her forces throughout 3057, the Falcon's talons were unleashed upon the unprepared, recently independent Lyran Alliance. 4 worlds fell immediately, shielded only by thin militia units with outdated equipment.
Yay.
The new alliance was now on the knife's edge, potentially ready to fall into an abyss. All news was shut down within the alliance. The new establishment already feared the return of the first prince, Victor, to power, by so quickly displaying their incompetence and incapability to handle the incursion. Dedicated house units were put in the Falcon's path, but it was predicted by the Lyran generals at the head of the alliance that their enemy's primary goal was the major world of Coventry. And this proved to be true. In early March, the last assault on Coventry began. Standing in the defense at the start of the operation were several militia units.
Okay, I just gotta say, I'm not a fan of the color green. I'm not a fan of the color green at all. I never have been. For some reason, the color green, it just, you know, I don't hate it, but it's just like, if I could paint things other colors, I would, okay? I would. I don't have a problem with the Jade Falcon color arrangement on that mech. I'm okay with that. No, I don't hate the salamanders, it's just the color green. I'm just saying. Alkius, how much of this BS would we do if we had mechs now? About 3 times as much. To be honest with you, we would be doing this on a regular basis. We would be doing this a lot.
As well as 2 regiments of the Sky Rangers, the 10th and the 22nd. The former were considered tested regulars, and the latter were deemed to be as green as grass and were deemed unreliable.
You see? Green as grass. It's a bad thing.
Despite this, the 22nd fought almost to the last in the opening of the invasion. The quality of the Rangers' equipment in particular was exceptional, despite the quality of the troops being somewhat lacking. The Jade Falcons were to find their own heavy Omnimex had a machine that could rival them, even if the tonnage wasn't quite equivalent.
Buck, they would find a way to turn a battle mech into... It would fly. It would fly. Not very far, but it would fly nonetheless. Because the North Koreans can't do anything right. Not even be North Koreans, apparently.
Moving at the pace of an Inner Sphere Heavy, but almost matching the firepower of a Clan Heavy, the BNC-5S could break down its slightly more maneuverable, but less armored adversaries. One of the most prestigious battle mechs to make it to the field during the fighting. This was a cornerstone piece of armor that helped the defenders' chances to hold out for relief. And undoubtedly, it played its role well. For almost any mech, barring dedicated assaults in the Falcon's arsenal, it was a poor omen to be faced down by this ancient failure, now remade into the image of a true monster. The Falcons, however, were able to rely on their superior skills and numbers to overtake the local militia, and badly mauled the Rangers in the first wave of fighting as well, but not without suffering some losses of their own. The Clanners bided their time, tearing into the weak militia units and even the regulars arrayed against them, hitting at their own best opportunities to do so. But things were not to go their way, not by a long shot. Even as the clans won a major victory at Port St. Williams, functionally driving the militia and Sky Rangers from the planet's most vital areas and into the hinterlands. This was not the beginning of a grand victory. The defenders began raiding the occupiers in hit-and-run strikes, before fading into underground locations or forests to hide from Falcon reprisals. This wouldn't win back their world, but but it was all they could do while they awaited relief. On April 5th, the Coventry Expeditionary Force, composed of elements of the Eridani Light Horse, Waco's Rangers, and Wolf's Dragoons, arrived in system to relieve the beleaguered defenders. The fight turned into a real challenge to the Falcons with this happening, which was exactly what Martha Pride had wanted. The Falcons inflicted heavy losses onto the mercenaries, but unfortunately for Pride, the now entrenched Falcons suffered badly as well.
Did you overheat your mech, good sir? The shame!
Supplies became an issue for both sides, and the grueling nature of the fight exhausted both now the unified CEF command, comprised of mercenaries and on-planet Lyran forces, as well as the deployed Falcons. When the rest of the Inner Sphere arrived, and several more regiments of Lyran guards appeared as well, things clearly reached the boiling point. The Falcons had pulled some of their own punches, and much of their two-men was on site or nearby. When the relief forces dropped, led by Victor Steiner Davian no less, it would be a cataclysmic engagement.
Look at that.
Politically.
Okay, that's an uglier paint scheme right there. I'm just saying, orange and lime green, that's nasty. Destroy that mech quickly.
For all sides. Neither group could afford to lose.
Oh, there you go.
But it was too risky to attempt to win. Thank you. Martha half turned from the two busts, then came back around. Oh, and you should know that I will defend this world with everything I have. This is what your people did, and to do less would dishonor them. Karn Martha Pride in her remote discussion with the incoming coalition forces. Coventry, 3058.
Nice.
An in-person meeting was held, and Higira, or Honorable Surrender, was offered to the Falcons by the First Prince, the true Archon, much to the surprise of everyone, especially given the Falcons' intent to fight to the bitter end only briefly beforehand. Martha accepted. Political and military realities elsewhere meant that Martha had to accept the favorable surrender, but this was unbeknownst to the Coalition at the time. This was the campaign where the BNC-5S, the most famous and dangerous configuration of the Banshee within the 31st century, was truly tested. This was the war where the Dragoons and Steiner deployed it to maximum effect, and where it squared off against clan battlemechs on the field of battle, proving its worth and power. And the Banshee was a part of another key campaign yet still, namely one to destroy Clan Smoke Jaguar. Ironically, another operation caused by the political crisis the Jade Falcons had created by invading Coventry. But it was here, on the very same world, where it was truly put to the ultimate test. It is impossible to say that it did not pass, given the circumstances.
True.
This is also the moment where the Banshee had shed its poor reputation. In the forests and mountains and battlefields of Coventry, it proved to be the best that the Lyran Alliance armed forces could put onto the field, and also proved to be a match for the primary nemesis of the houses that built it. If there was one mech to act as a symbol for Steiner victory in the clan invasion era, and its resurgence outside of the Federated Commonwealth, it would be that of the Banshee, standing over their vanquished enemies, proudly painted in the banner of the Lyran state, and showing anyone foolish enough to strike at the heart of the country that they would be delusional to believe that they would not pay a price for it.
Nice.
This was truly the breakout moment for the mech as it forged its new legacy, rising up to defend the people of the Lyran state from their enemies at the gate.
Oh, he said the thing! To be perfectly honest to you guys, to be absolutely perfectly honest, the stomping of the Lyrans and during the initial clan invasion and the Rossel Hogs was the baking of the Yeah, Clan Smoke Dragar. That's pretty accurate. Yeah, let's go. Christian, what's up? I've been waiting for this one, the 5S. Let's go.
Perhaps the best known configuration of the Banshee, and the configuration most well regarded for changing the perceptions around it, even more so than the 3S. The BNC-5S is a near wonder weapon as far as the forces of the Inner Sphere were concerned upon its arrival. While some revisions were made after its introduction to place several equally or more devastating mechs in the roster of the Inner Sphere during this era after the fact. During the campaign's near 3050, almost nothing at the time could match this 95-ton assault mech's ferocity on the battlefield. Even clan heavies will be forced into difficult circumstances when confronted by this powerhouse. Using a host of rediscovered technologies, the 5S is a truly frightening sight to be faced with upon its introduction and well beyond. In order to keep critical space open, the 5S comes with a standard internal structure, rather than an endo-steel one.
Yay!
In addition, it has a standard gyro and cockpit, but this is partially due to the technological limitations of the day. In respect to cooling, the 5S is fantastically better served than its predecessor,
Nice.
using Star League era double heat sinks, and it has 14 of them in total, letting it shed 28 points of heat every turn. If used in protracted engagements, the mech can still run hot, but with range bracketed fire and cycling its hottest systems during the engagement, it can be kept from the worst heat-related issues.
Nice.
In regards to electronics, there are changes made from the original design, with the 5S now supporting the Angst Clear Channel 3 communications package, as well as the Angst Clear 2A targeting and tracking system. They still
I love the fact it's called Angst. That's awesome to me, I'm just saying.
don't confer it any bonuses. It possesses the same quirk as its predecessors, namely the rugged feature.
Yeah.
The biggest innovation of the BNC-5S was in its retention of firepower, and having the ability to install a massive power plant on board in order for the mech to achieve a reasonable run rate.
Okay.
With all of this in mind, the 5S is truly a combination of the 3E and the 3S in the most meaningful ways. The engine that makes all of this possible is the Edisich Motors 380 XL Fusion power plant. It still weighs a hefty 20.5 tons, but this is much down from the 41 tons of the standard engine. And
Like the first engine this thing had in it was literally almost half its weight. That's just ugly.
allows the mech to reach a maximum speed of 64 kilometers per hour,
Not bad.
or 6 movement points in the tabletop game. This means that the 5S moves at the rate of Inner Sphere battle line formations, allowing it to keep up with most heavies and some mediums.
Okay.
It expands the number of options the mech has for defense and positioning as well, making it all the more dangerous. Notably though, there is a drawback, in that if the BNC-5S loses a side torso, it will automatically be knocked out of action.
Hooray.
But this is a price worth paying in this instance, as the exchange is far greater than the vulnerabilities it acquires. Nothing changes, funnily enough, as far as this Banshee goes in regards to its defenses. Matching the plating of the 3S, which matches the plating of the 3E, the 5S continues this arrangement of its armor, but this isn't necessarily a good thing. While it is more heavily guarded than most heavy mechs, it's not quite as protected as most of its peers in the
It kind of does too, Buck, but it reminds me more of a movie that I saw way back in the day. I just really can't, like... I don't think it was Wing Commander. But I'm pretty sure I've heard something similar to this before.
same tonnage range. Once again, this is in its own way the mech's greatest weakness, especially considering its XL engine. That being said though, this is more something to be concerned about, and to be taken into account, rather than a true Achilles heel.
Okay.
Especially when factoring in that it does lack case to protect it from ammunition explosions.
Sadness.
An inner sphere mech that can often match the raw power of several clan designs? It shouldn't be possible.
Yeah.
But simply through a smart set of weaponry, and using its tonnage mostly wisely, this Banshee is one of the very best equipped inner sphere battle mechs to challenge a clan-heavy Omnimech. To start with its biggest asset, the 5S comes with a devastating left torso-mounted Poland main Model A Gauss cannon. This is
Poland obviously now can into space.
a head-clipping weapon system, and it delivers enough punch to break through armor, especially at respectable distances. The only shortcoming the system has is that it is volatile, and it only has 1 ton of ammunition,
Nah.
8 rounds. This means that those 8 rounds need to be certain shots, and need to count. Next up is the Banshee's twin,
Oh, yeah.
torso-mounted Defiance 1001 particle cannons.
Christian, one of my favorite things to do, there was a light mech that I played in Mech Warrior Online, and the only thing I could put on it, I think it was either light or medium, the only thing I could put on it was a Gauss rifle. And I would, right when the match would start, I'd load that Gauss rifle up and let it go and headshot an enemy mech on its way down. It was nice.
These are ERPPCs, and have approximately the same range as the Gauss rifle, allowing them to pair exceptionally well with it. The main drawback these have is that they can only be fired together every other turn, without beginning to force heat penalties upon the mech. Still, when married to the Gauss rifle, they can
I think it was a light,
potentially do
Christian. It's been a couple of
35
years.
points of damage at a distance, broken up into sets of 10 and 15 damage blocks, which is quite frightening. Then we get into the close quarters systems.
Okay.
This particular Banshee once more has
Thank you,
4
David.
medium lasers, but 2 of them are rear mounted, and the other set are placed in the left arm. This reduces the 5S's firepower in up-close engagements quite substantially. Unfortunately, when it's compared to the 3S, but at least it does give the mech the ability to try to defend itself from rear attacks.
Right.
Following these up, it has a center torso mounted small laser, and a head mounted one as well. As the
Remember, emotional support is still support.
final piece of the puzzle, it has a right arm mounted SRM-6 launcher with 15 rounds of ammunition. This gives it a great follow-up when hitting targets, using it to fish for critical hits. All in all, this is a very dangerous package of weaponry.
Christian, when I played Mech Warrior Online, I was kind of split between the Gauss and the AC-20. If I was playing something up close and personal, give me the AC-20 every single time. If I was playing mid-range, AC-20 every single time. Long range, Gauss. Matthew, what's up, bud? Alkius, I've never played Titanfall.
The mech may have been better served overall being more configured in terms of weapons placements, like the 3S, but it is still superior
Avalon, thank you
just
so
due to the
much.
quality and technology differences between the two. A truly remarkable and deadly clan invasion destroyer, the Banshee 5S carries with it a long, hard-earned reputation for being one of the best assault mechs of its time. Relatively quick on its feet, heavily gunned, and mostly smartly designed. There are few things that can get in the way to stop it. It may struggle in some respects still, however. The most glaring example of a fault is its relatively light plating for its weight, and that it lacks a case. Its XL engine can also be paired with this, potentially leading to the mech being knocked out of a fight sooner than later. And finally, its Gauss rifle is starved for ammunition,
Yeah.
meaning that it can't afford to
Thank
take
you,
risky
Omega.
shots with the weapon. But even with every one of these factors taken into account, it is still a nightmare to square off against. When this monster haunts the streets of cities, or forests, it is truly the Banshee it is named for, howling and screaming as it annihilates its victims.
Prior to this, the Banshee was known for howling and screaming as it was annihilated. Very nice. Yeah, Gauss, you have to really, like... I'll put it like this. AC-20, if it hits, it's going to do an absolute hell ton of damage. That's just an AC-20, period. The Gauss rifle is capable of one-shotting, but it requires a lot more in terms of aiming. than the AC-20. Oh boy.
And Stavian, marrying the heir to the Lyran throne? Even if it is a match made in heaven, I somehow have a feeling we'll all be going to hell. Cardinal Francis Flynn, New Avalon Catholic Church.
Let's go.
26.
Hooray! There's nothing like a family reunion when you realize that both sides of the family absolutely hate each other. Why? We don't know. Does it matter? Not really. Is it funny? Yes. Oh yeah, I did, Buck.
Well, not particularly notable.
Buck, Sven asked me to hold off on anything involving the Third Succession War until he does the whole combining thing. I got a feeling it's going to be a monster, but he has been doing a lot with it. It's been awesome.
In the era after the Clan invasion, the BNC series still had a role to play in what was to come. That era was defined by a conflict so severe that it became the name for the post-Clan invasion. The Federated Commonwealth Civil War tore both the Lyran Alliance and Federated Commonwealth apart. The arrogance of Catherine Steiner-Davian was, in a word, shocking. First having become...
Really? I need to hear more right now. I need to hear a lot more because I've heard a lot of ego in the... Like, ever since I started learning about Battletech, I've heard a lot of ego. So far, the number one is Kenyon Merritt because that man looks so smug. You could... If smug was a flavor, he could have made an entire galaxy-wide level of franchise just delivering smug to the masses.
Archon of the Lyran Alliance, and then unlawfully seizing power on New Avalon in 3060. The Inner Sphere was held hostage by someone with even less of a moral compass than almost any other figure of recent times.
Sweet.
A narcissist and a psychopath, Catherine's manipulative and ruthless approach to politics managed to secure her a power base in both nations.
Okay.
However, no threat to her power was permitted, even by family, and no dissent could be allowed from the public either.
Oh, great.
Catherine crushed every noble who stood in opposition to her, with famous incidents like the toppling of the Drusari family on Cantaris coming to the fore. And she famously suffocated any public protests as well, controlling the media with an iron grip, and consistently reinforcing her image to as many people as possible. She became the queen of a pair of police states in the Inner Sphere.
Great!
Backed by her military and intelligence loyalists in both states, a darkness engulfed the realms her parents had unwillingly left to her. The only problem was, much of her support came also through people who had been motivated through their own greed and desire for personal power. And she began to lose hold of these figures in both of the nations she now governed.
Perfect.
As her policies and repression put their own skins at risk. Catherine's primary mistake, the thing that let the delicate tyranny she put in place fall away, appears to have been the overt murdering of her brother, Arthur Steiner-Davian.
Okay.
Arthur had become a rallying point against her for many within the Federated Sons, and once more being a narcissist and a psychopath, Catherine was not going to let that stand. This heinous act finally resulted in Victor Steiner-Davian, who had returned from the clan invasion to find himself without his role as First Prince, to finally assert that Catherine had to go. None of us wishes to see more conflict, but we can no longer ignore the problems plaguing us. Now we must live with the results, however painful, as we acknowledge the irreconcilable differences that continue to divide my sister from me. It is no longer possible for me to stand back in the interest of peace. The time's come, my people, where no other choice remains. None but war.
And let the galaxy burn. Oh my god, dude. Christian, man. Dude, thank you, bud. Oh my god. Much appreciated. Thank you so much, dude. Let me repeat my congratulations on your next step. I'm more than happy to talk to you if you ever want to talk sci-fi or just vent. I'm excited to see you grow and get into Battletech. Welcome. If you ever want to nerd out on Battletech, I'm not opposed. Glory to the SLDF. Oh my god. Dude, thank you so much. Oh my god. I'm going to play that game. I swear to you guys. I'm going to wind up playing that game. That's going to happen. That is going to happen. And I'm going to need some people to play with me because I suck. I'm just going to say it. I suck. Christian, thank you, bud. I'm much appreciated. Thank you so much, dude.
Broadcast made by Victor Steiner Davian, December 8th, 3062, to the people of the former Federated Commonwealth.
Oh my god. Kick the football off. Here we go. Kick the football off. It's been 15 minutes. We haven't started killing each other. That's how this goes. That is how this goes, okay? Kick the football off. Let's go.
Prior to this point, the former Archon Prince had attempted to save lives and avoid conflict by not challenging his sister, knowing that this would devolve into a full-blown civil war.
Of course.
He'd seen enough conflict, enough death and destruction, and knowing the clans were still a threat, he wanted to avoid such a miserable outcome. Victor instead became the Presenter Marshal of Comstar, succeeding Frederick Steiner in the role, and seemed poised to accept this new position in life, until Arthur's death. The war was as terrible as one could have predicted. Almost every world of the Commonwealth was impacted in some way as civilians.
Nice.
Soldiers, officers, and nobles picked sides. 4 years of bloody
Christian,
fighting
thank you,
finally
bud.
came to a head on New Avalon, where Catherine was forced to capitulate to her brother's forces.
There you go.
Knowing he couldn't stay in power with any authority after the hell he'd unleashed, Victor let both House Steiner and Davian go. His brother Peter became Archon, and his sister Yvonne became First Prince.
Okay.
The massive industrial base of the Lyran state and the military know-how of the Federated Sons were turned in on themselves. Like one can imagine, the Banshee was employed by both sides in this hellish family argument.
Nice.
Not only was this the case, but Defiance even produced 2 wholly new variants of the mech due to its strong reputation and newly found success.
From being an absolute joke. I know.
The real issue around the Banshee during the war was more to do with the nature of the Fedcom Civil War, with it being spread across such a wide area. This played havoc on lines of communication and even coordinating where new deliveries could be deployed. It also did not help that infrastructure and industries across the Lyran side of the Federated Commonwealth were absolutely devastated by the war, hindering support for battlemech procurement in general as the economy entered into a tailspin.
Sweet.
Recovery took priority in the Commonwealth more than anything else, which meant that despite producing new configurations of the Banshee, and in spite of still producing the 5S, mechs like this rescinded in the immediate aftermath of the conflict, which was in its own way tragic, beyond simply referring to the balance sheets of the owners of Defiance Industries, as mechs like this were needed more than ever, given what was to come in the wake of the downfall of Catherine's tyranny.
Yay! Does everything go to hell in a handbasket? The shadow of Korinsky falls. Oh, joy, Valera. The success. Here we go.
Using engine technologies stolen from the Wolf's Dragoons, devising
Borrowed. Steal. Strategically transfer equipment to an alternate location. Yes. Yes. Oh, good God. Oh my God, Christian. Dude! I'm imagining Steve Harvey trying to mediate. No, Steve Harvey couldn't mediate this. He couldn't Family Feud this. It's just not. It's just not. Here's the YouTube. Oh my God. What do you think Cisco and Picard would do? What do you think Cisco and Picard do if they show up for the Starfleet Civil War? Cisco starts screaming, "It's real." Cisco then turns around. You know what? Honestly, I think Cisco would take command of at least one of them, probably the Davians, and lead them to success. And of course, Picard would, because Picard, supposed to be French, speaks with a British accent. I'm just saying. We all know what Gul Dukat would do. Throw himself into a fire. Just saying. Yeah, it's another Tuesday in the Inner Sphere. It is.
Industries opted to go with a
Dude,
new
Christian,
DNC
thank you,
model
dude.
in
God.
2062. One with less danger to onboard engine destruction, adopting endosteel to save weight, and reducing its heatsink total to 10. The 6S tries to implement a huge new engine, which is the 31-ton 380 light fusion power plant. These engines offer less weight than a standard, but aren't as light or as vulnerable as a full Star League XL engine either. This gives the 6S more survivability, if only because it can lose an entire side torso without being automatically knocked out.
Okay.
Though it will be somewhat crippled from the experience. This power plant was also chosen clearly to make room. Why? Because the 6S was built to accommodate a heavy Gauss rifle, mounted in the left and center torso, more than anything else.
Okay.
This is one of the hardest hitting systems in the history of man. With 16 rounds of ammunition, it can go. The main backup for the system? A right torso mounted LB-10X autocannon with 2 tons of ammunition.
Okay, so if you manage to get in close, you're hit in the face with a shotgun. If you're standing at a distance, you get hit with an oversized sniper rifle that shoots a round that moves at the speed of Mach fuck. Wow. Hey, it still has the emotional support small laser. All right.
And a case.
Christian,
for
thank
said
you, dude.
ammunition.
You have a nice
It also
night.
has a small laser
Really
in
do
the head.
appreciate it, my guy.
It rips things open with the heavy Gauss rifle and LBX slugs, before it shreds targets with cluster rounds. While it might not be the most heavily gunned assault
Yeah, a lot of
that
DACA
has ever
there.
been, it's still certainly formidable in its own way. In 3063, another Banshee started to leave the factories on
7S.
Hesperus, and once more embraced light fusion engine technology.
Okay.
This time around, it was clearly aimed at competing with the 5S though. The Banshee 7S maintains much of the same internal build outside of its light engine and endosteel internal structure, and its weapon systems are very similar. It once more has a Gauss rifle, and this time with 2 tons of ammunition.
Okay.
Then it has a single ER PPC in the left arm.
Okay.
After this, it has 4 ER medium lasers, with 2 in the right arm and 1 per side torso. Finally, there is a right torso mounted SRM-6, and a small laser. Its ammunition is also protected by a case.
Excellent chat. They finally put a case on this bastard. They finally put a case on this bastard. It only took them half a millennium, but they finally put a case on this bastard.
It has less firepower than the 5S, but overall it has more sustainability. It also forward faces all of its medium lasers, enhancing its forward fighting ability in close. Overall, it's a very tough mech to fight. It's more durable, and still has deadly firepower. It also doesn't overheat as much. There really isn't much to criticize. beyond the fact that it only has a single PPC. That trade, I am sure, is something that many mech warriors would be willing to make.
A lot of sustainability and a little bit more of a, like, doesn't have much of a punch, but a lot more sustainability. Yeah, I think a lot of people would do that. Tank is important. Tank is very important. Okay, what the hell? I already know, no matter what is about to come out of this guy's mouth, no matter what he is about to say, I don't care. This is going to be jacked. I already know, just based off the way this dude is looking, whatever he's going to say is going to be jacked. I have way too much experience with Mechanicus. Let's go.
All of history is a river, driven by currents of inertia that few can resist, and fewer still can hope to comprehend. Great men are those who can see the currents and navigate them to glory, but only a true master can find a way to tame the currents themselves.
No.
Use history's own momentum as an instrument of true change.
How about we not and say we did?
An excerpt from Thomas Merrick's Final Days, 1381.
Praise be to Merrick. Oh boy.
One of the darkest eras of humankind was, in fact, the Blakist assault on the Inner Sphere. In the aftermath of the FedCom Civil War, it became clear to the leaders of the various great houses, for the most part, that the Star League could not continue.
Okay.
The clan threat had been curbed, though not halted, but the houses themselves had lost their common cause with one another,
Oh boy.
needing to focus on their own internal affairs, rather than maintaining the international system. The lords of several great houses pulled out, in effect, ending the reborn Star League. This act enraged the half of Comstar that had formed into the Word of Blake. With hidden worlds, vast armies, cyborgs, brand new terrifying Omnimex, production from the Free Worlds League, and a fleet of warships, they turned their fury upon the Inner Sphere that had rejected their prophecies. A huge
So they started off as the Space Amish, then transformed to the Space Mennonites, then they became the Space Jehovah's Witnesses. And now, we're in hell. Hey Alan, thanks bud. You were flying your new Thopter in Dune Awakening? Is it fun? Is it fun? Black Wolf, you and the family have a wonderful night, my guy. You and your family have a wonderful night.
huge wound opened in the middle of human space as the Word of Blake launched its assault, scattering over the planets of the Great Powers. Some of their most primary targets were the major industrial centers of the Inner Sphere,
Yay.
worlds like Hesperus and Irion. These were then turned into dark forges of their own designs. In some instances, they built ancient war machines like the Atlas II and other horrors, though they also repurposed Lyran designs for their own sinister purposes as well. One of the most prominent mechs they reworked was in fact the Banshee. Instead of now fighting on the side of the Lyran Alliance, these haunting spirits were turned upon their own people. What had once been the mailed fist of the Commonwealth was now a clawed gauntlet, reaching out to strangle them. But the reign of the Word of Blake was not to last forever. Devlin Stone, a man who emerged within the former Steiner space, in fact, rose to unite the people of the Inner Sphere in a war against the Word of Blake and their mad and delusional drive for power. As this tragedy unfolded, another did in turn. Archon Peter Steiner Davian, only a handful of years into his reign, openly supported the attempt to oppose the Word of Blake, and for his trouble he was assassinated by one of their operatives in 3073. His successor, Adam Steiner, of propaganda fame, rose to replace him, and was to be the one who tried most to heal the badly wounded realm in the aftermath of the Word of Blake's destruction, to which
He looks like the guy who Salad Fingers is after the nuclear wasteland. If you know who Salad Finger is, there he is.
He played a role himself in defeating, and also from the devastation of the Fedcom Civil War. Unfortunately for the Lyran Commonwealth, as the country was once more renamed, Adam Steiner, while a capable leader, did not leave behind a worthy successor, and no amount of money, industry, or military power.
Remember the first Recession War? Say hello to Blay. There is where it is Nuka Clock all day long. Nuka Clock! Are we going to Nuka World? Warpugs, give me 1 minute. I gotta step up for 1 second. I will be back in a second. Oh my goodness, sorry about that. I had to step up for 1 second to handle something. Flipping this back on now. Kablam. All right, let's go.
Could save them.
What is the Celestials?
From what the legacy of his rule unleashed.
Great, I hate them already, Mitch. And now there's chanting.
A Blakist advancement on the Banshee line of battle mechs, the BNC-8S, introduced during their occupation of the world in 3070, is an exceptional machine, and is one that uses a cutting-edge series of technologies for its era of development. First and foremost, it has a 380XL engine once more, letting it keep its maximum speed of 64 kilometers per hour.
Sweet.
However, it also has TSM, or triple strength myomers, letting it run potentially even faster when overheating, and giving it immensely powerful physical attacks. For cooling, it can vent up to 26 every turn, letting it use a large portion of its weaponry safely, or it can deliberately overheat to gain a TSM bonus.
Okay.
One major drawback is its XL gyro, however, making it much more likely to be disabled through a mobility kill. Unlike almost every prior Banshee, however, the 8S has a huge 18 tons of standard plating on board, giving it 288 points of armor. Given that it has to protect an XL engine, XL gyro, and volatile components, the protection this mech had needed to be meaningful. A case is on board, though this will mostly protect the pilot, more so than the mech. Much like many Blakist designs, it also has a C3 system as well, letting it network with a master, and others when available. Finally, it has a Guardian ECM, giving it an extra layer of protection. All of these factors together would make the 8S very capable. But now let's examine the weapons it brings to the field.
Let's go.
They are noteworthy. In the right arm, you'll find a snub-nosed PPC, an excellent system for close-range fighting.
Okay.
Followed up by an ER medium laser. In the right torso, an assortment of lasers can be found, including an ER large laser, 3 ER medium lasers, and an ER small laser. This lets it rip into targets and generate heat as needed for its TSM system. Then, going into the left torso, it has an LB-10X with 2 tons of ammunition, letting it fire solid or cluster rounds. All of this is superb in regards to its firepower. The 8S also has a left arm deployed hatchet. When coming in with its TSM, this Titan is absolutely terrifying in close.
Hatchet. Hatchet. Like a hatchet? Like a mech-sized hatchet? They brought an axe? Well, damn, okay. Nothing says I don't want you around anymore than a 3-story axe to the face. I'm just saying. Yes, Omega, they gave it a choppa. The word of Blake is officially orcs.
In short, this Banshee is relatively quick, hits very hard, and has all of the tools to be a nightmare if not addressed immediately by opposing forces. Its main weakness? It has an abundance of things that can go catastrophically wrong on board if it takes heavy fire,
Oh my
or
god.
suffers a through-armor critical. Still, the 8S is a brutal fighter. 1 year after the deployment of the 8S, the 9S was put into production by the Blakeists during their reign of terror. Looking to adopt the opposite role of the 8S, the 9S is a dedicated and powerful sniper.
Oh
It
boy.
retains much of what its predecessor did, having the same armor and mostly the same internal components, barring its engine and heatsink total. It uses a 285 light fusion engine in order to accommodate heavier firepower, while it also reduces its vulnerability to engine death. It also has 28 cooling instead of 26,
Okay.
and lacks TSM or a Guardian ECM. Instead, it has a targeting computer on board. So, what does it do when things get into the realm of firepower? In the left torso, it once more accommodates a Gauss rifle,
Okay.
giving it a deadly punch and headshotting ability,
Uh-huh.
as well as 2 tons of ammunition. It then pairs this with a heavy PPC in the left arm, essentially doing the same thing, but without ammunition and a slightly shorter range. These 2 weapons are a deadly pair to be sure. To follow this up, it has a left arm mounted light PPC as well. For when things do get in close, it has 2 right arm mounted ER medium lasers and a head mounted one as well. Oddly, it has a left torso mounted standard medium laser too. As a finale to its deadly arsenal of destruction, it has a right torso mounted SRM-6 launcher, giving it the ability to crit seek targets that come in too close.
Lovely.
All in all, the 9S is exceptionally dangerous as a sniper, due to it combining a targeting computer with 2 major long-range systems. And its close-range firepower is impressive too. It is a very, very deadly upgrade.
Uh-huh. It's... I always am sitting there when I see mechs like the Flea and the Locust and things like that. I'm wondering, why would anybody want to pilot this thing when things like, I don't know, the Timberwolf or the Atlas exist? And then I see something like this and realize 1 round of firepower from this thing would take a Locust and flip it. It's ridiculous. That's stupid. Nope. If you see it wasn't shooting at you, that's accurate.
Everything you've done, Highness, your invasion of the Merrick Realms, your overture to Clan Wolf, your vendetta against Duke Vedette, everything has been a disaster.
Yay!
Lieutenant General Mayer, during the coup to remove Melissa Steiner II from power, Tharkad City, the Royal Palace, 17th of March, 3141. History seemed to end with the rise of the Republic at the heart of the Inner Sphere.
The Free Worlds League is balkanized. Very nice. What the hell? that sucks.
Armies dwindled in size as a new stable norm was established.
True, Iron.
There were still wars, such as the protracted civil war in the Free Worlds League between the various provinces vying for control over the disunited state, or the Second Combine Dominion War, or even actions by the Capellan Confederation. But as a whole, it was quiet after the destruction of the word.
Joe, that is good news, my guy. That is good news, my guy. That is very good news. Glad to hear it, my guy. Hope you get some good sleep tonight, too. Make it a whole week of it, all right? Make it a whole week of it. It'll be good.
Blake in the inner sphere.
Thank you, bud.
In this peaceful existence, vast armies were simply unneeded. Traditional mechs, ones used for centuries,
Oh yeah, you'll be fine,
were
Joe.
either placed in storage or were outright decommissioned across the inner sphere.
I'm looking at this map. I don't know much about this time period, but I can tell you by the look of the way the map looks, unless your last name was Davian, everything sucked for you. Unless your last name was Davian, everything sucked. Am I right in this statement? Because at least if you were a Davian, you weren't losing everything.
Mechs such as the Banshee began to vanish from view, even if some of these machines were maintained or even built by Hesperus. They simply weren't needed in the vast numbers they once had been. Politically, House Steiner was one of the primary allies holding together the peace as well, being linked heavily to the new Terran state as one of their core trading partners. They, along with nations like the Rosselhague Dominion and Federated Sons, being so closely partnered with the Republic of the Sphere, ensured that the worst actors left in their proximity were always held in check.
Okay.
During this time of peace, Adam Steiner attempted to restore the Commonwealth to the glory it once had long ago. Though he wasn't wholly successful, still, the huge economic engine of the Commonwealth was reasonably restored, even if it wasn't producing massive amounts of war materials for various conflicts, because there were none, and there wasn't an arms race for much of the Republic era. When the blackout occurred in 31-32, everything changed. Even in the years leading up to it, there were rumblings that the status quo might be challenged in some way, but never with the kind of chaos that the blackout had caused. The Republic began to fray very quickly, and the alliance that held the peace almost immediately began to implode.
Yay.
Even more reliable but less friendly actors like the Draconis Combine shifted very quickly into a more aggressive and opportunistic stance. This created fertile ground for many of the ancient machines of war that had gone silent in recent years to make a triumphant return, including such beasts as the Banshee. However, those that walked from the production lines in House Steiner were to have a most grim fate.
Oh boy.
You see, the Lyran Commonwealth was burdened with perhaps the worst Archon in its history.
Yay!
In the early 3120s, Adam Steiner died, and had been succeeded by his son, Andrew Steiner. Andrew's reign was very short before he passed away from poor luck, suffering from food poisoning while attending the Liberation Street Fair in Tharkad City.
Press X to doubt.
It was his daughter, Melissa Steiner, the granddaughter of the famous Adam Steiner, who is perhaps the worst scourge the Lyran state has ever had as their leader.
Oh boy.
Ill-prepared for the role, both lacking in temperament and training, Melissa Steiner was a jealous, envious, stubborn, unintelligent, vain, prideful, treacherous, and pitiful human being.
Well, damn. Okay.
She lacked in her any form of virtue. Her
Damn!
rule was to single-handedly change the course of history, for the entirety of the Inner Sphere, in fact. With the HPG grid down, Steiner began to invest heavily in Comstar and to a lesser extent the Republic of the Sphere, buying bonds and keeping these enterprises funded. But this began to strain even the impressive treasury and markets of the Commonwealth itself, especially as the
Commander.
Lyrans were playing all sides, rearming themselves, funding pro-Steiner rebels within the Republic to an extent, and planning huge operations. Melissa was simply not content being where she and her nation were prior to the blackout.
Bro. Yeah, the Republic crashed bad. Wow.
The Inner Sphere was a game board she aimed to win. First and foremost, by bailing out Comstar, she ensured that they would find a solution to the HPG blackout, and they would inevitably, of course. And when they did, inevitably, House Steiner was to have a controlling stake in the organization easily.
Of course.
For Melissa II, she knew she could therefore potentially stem or open communications as needed, allowing the Commonwealth and her family to not only profit from this exchange, but to use this mechanism of control to overwhelm and influence their rivals across the Inner Sphere. Comstar would be, in essence, a branch of her government that operated across all of human space. The Republic was to be indebted to her as well, meaning that their cooperation in future political events was to be ensured. Everything was going to come up House Steiner from now on.
Did she quite simply bet everything on black? Is that what she did? She just rolled up to the roulette table and bet everything on black.
Except that civilians and lesser nobles,
Oh boy.
plagued with high taxes and endless spending, were increasingly agitated with this burden, clearly not seeing the bigger picture, of course.
Of course.
Local protests began in the late 3130s, and Melissa had the perfect solution for that. War.
Yay!
Bordering two splinters of the former Free Worlds League, the Merrick-Stewart Commonwealth and the Duchy of Tamarind Abbey, was perfect for this plan. The Merricks were the ancient and sworn enemies of House Steiner, and even in their current diminished form, they were still somewhat troublesome. Her plan was quite simple: to crush and absorb these territories into the Lyran Commonwealth. The Merrick-Stewart Commonwealth, and nearby Irian within the Republic, were the industrial, military, and economic beating hearts of the Old League.
He's not taking her picture down either. He wants you to hear everything that he's saying and realize this is her fault, okay?
With these territories under her control, the already undisputed superiority of Steiner Industries would be further enhanced.
Okay.
When all of her plans came together, the Lyran state would be the largest in the Inner Sphere, with the biggest, most powerful and robust industrial base by far, and with influence over interstellar communications, and its Republic neighbor, House Steiner was to be the hegemon of the Inner Sphere.
Okay.
And there really did seem to be a chance of all of this happening. Perhaps if Melissa Steiner II wasn't the one behind all of these plots, this is exactly what would have happened. But it was not to be. Against the shared wisdom of her advisors, and particularly her key confidant and cousin, Trillian Steiner Davian, she struck a deal with Clan Wolf to help in her invasion of the Merrick territories. This ended in an absolute disaster, intending on using the wolves as cannon fodder, and then eventually intending on holding something over them to force further compliance. Melissa set her realm up for disaster. The LCAF and Clan Wolf launched Operation Hammerfall in 3137. Inside of these armies were the best the Lyrans could put in the field in regards to their equipment, including the deadly configurations of the BNC series of battle mechs crafted by the Word of Blake almost 2 generations prior.
Okay.
There were many more cutting-edge designs inside of the Lyran formations as well. This was the armored fist the Lyrans intended to ram down the Eagle's throat, and it was by no means neglected or left for want. The Merrick Commonwealth was crushed, especially after the killing of Captain General Anson Merrick, forcing the people of his nation into occupation in 3138. Tamarind Abbey barely held on, before it reunified with the League. The resurgent and reunified Free Worlds League attempted to counterattack, and did liberate many of their holdings within the remaining duchy.
Gear Stark, thanks, bud. Red is going light Melissa here. He has far more animosity towards Free Worlds League current leader in the modern era. Yeah.
However, they failed utterly to reclaim
thanks,
much
bud.
of the Merrick Commonwealth beyond.
To be honest with you, the thought that they're going to sit there and use Clan Wolf at this point, I'm sorry, did you not sense the main character energy just vibing off of this thing? Like, did you not see it? Do you not smell the main character energy coming off of Clan Wolf? And the amount of plot armor that they have. It's not going to go the way that you think.
A few planets, before Alaric Ward and Clan Wolf killed the Warden General of the League, its functional co-leader, Thaddeus Merrick. This was the last great success the Steiners could claim, and truthfully, most of the heavy lifting had been done by the Wolves up until this point regardless.
Oh.
Because now, the Lyrans were to reap what they had sown.
Uh-huh.
Holding the Wolves' civilians hostage, Melissa II wrongly believed that this would be a leash which held her allies in place.
Wait a minute. She held Clan Wolf civilians hostage. That's not smart. That's actually very dumb.
Instead, Clan Wolf turned its full fury upon the LCAF, having fought alongside them, and being utterly unimpressed and contemptuous of them. The Wolves knew exactly how to play the Steiners' games. They tore the LCAF apart, bypassing set defense lines and shredding anything that got in their way.
Yay.
Orders from Tharkad were awful in the wake of this emerging crisis as well, pouring fuel on the fire of the very disaster. The entire Steiner military fell almost instantly into disarray, and was now fighting for its very existence,
Yeah.
as well as the existence of the state. It was never about the equipment. On paper, the LCAF was more than a match for Clan Wolf. The problem was,
Your leadership sucks, that's your problem.
as always, the quality of Lyran leadership, and even the relatively poor quality of its soldiers as a whole. Doubtlessly there were brave heroes amongst the LCAF who gave up their lives for their comrades to buy time, to stall the Wolves, or to spit in the face of the horrors they now faced. But it just was not reflective of how the campaign was to unfold. The disciplined, bitter, and angry clan warriors, with their superior equipment, training, and leadership, completely overwhelmed House Steiner's military arm. And at that same moment, Clan Jade Falcon II, sensing weakness, cut deep into the Lyrans. Everything had gone wrong. Melissa Steiner herself survived an assassination attempt, as furious officers tried to see her removed from power. It failed, but a very short time later, a successful coup was launched by the military, who then installed Vedette Brewer to power.
Nice.
Vedette had his own schemes as he attempted to keep the state alive.
Yeah, the Lyrans suffering from crap military leaders. What are the odds? They've only been doing that for 1,000 years.
Hiring Anastasia Kerensky to hold back Alaric Ward and his band of revenge-fueled wolves, though this too was destined to fail inevitably. The entire state began to fall apart as world after world was lost. It seemed to be the case that the Lyran Commonwealth was very much on death's door. As the situation grew more dire, those in charge began to flail under the pressure.
Yay.
Especially after Anastasia Kerensky's defeat at the hands of Alaric. Melissa became Archon once more in these dying days of Empire. Mercenaries! Vedette said desperately. We can contact mercenaries. Trillian looked over at Melissa, The Archon looked away. Suddenly, Trillian understood. For months, years, Melissa had poured Kroner into Comstar, propping up the communications giant in some mad scheme to bolster her power. Trillian would not say it in front of Melissa's enemies, but like all of her schemes, this one had backfired. Now, when the money could have been used in Tharkad's defense, it was gone.
Too bad, so sad, it sucks to be you.
So much money had been poured into Comstar, so many resources were tied up, and with the complete destruction of Comstar that was in the process of taking place unbeknownst to the Lyrans, all of that was for naught. With much of their territory in distress, with heavily industrialized worlds seized, or with them heavily damaged from raids or other obstructions, and with all of their financial assets tapped, something strange happened that had never taken place before.
What happened?
The Lyran Commonwealth was functionally, even if not revealed to the public, bankrupt. In other words, they were
How do you suck this bad? How do you suck this bad? They need to sit her down to write an essay on how she manages to suck this badly. You have effectively put the most heavily industrial, the biggest industrial power, financial power in the inner sphere into the pauper house. How did you do this? Sit down and write me a thesis. Like Anakin's.
insolvent. Clearly, under ideal conditions, they could have created war bonds to compensate for this. Or even they could have had the central bank on Tharkad begin printing more money. But truth be told, neither of these were a possibility in the short term either. The one certainty in House Steiner's long reign in the Inner Sphere, even during the FedCom Civil War, or even the Succession Wars, was that the Lyran state was wealthy beyond anything their opponents could have hoped to match.
Thanks,
Even if they
McSteamer.
could have hired mercenaries.
Thank you,
The
bud.
Commonwealth's most loyal allies in this space, the Kellhounds, had been all but annihilated by Clan Jade Falcon during their assault on the state, removing a
Hooray.
key support pillar for House Steiner in this dark time. Now with so many planets lost, with so much territory gone,
Oh!
and with financial destruction as well, the Lyran state was absolutely gutted, and it was
Oh!
all the fault of one person.
What is this Stellaris level border gore, man? Look at this! What is this Stellaris level border gore? My god!
Melissa Steiner II paid for her crimes and incompetence when the Wolves assaulted the capital shortly after the revelation of their default, being killed by them in a final act of defiance. But all is not lost for the Lyran Commonwealth. While turmoil and decline ravaged the country and its people, technological advancements were made in some corners, particularly by the now state-run Defiance Industries and Hesperus. Elements of clan technologies by this point could be found across most of the great powers of the Inner Sphere, but the selection of technology per location was limited by 3138 inside of the Lyran Commonwealth. In spite of all of this chaos and destruction, clan tech was able to be reproduced at scale,
Oh.
including exceptionally rare components like Clantech XL engine technology.
Oh!
And, while the LCAF was bled white in manpower and machines as clans Jade Falcon and Wolf tore into them, new war materials with these incredible standards of technology began to emerge, including the latest refit of the venerable Banshee. The new battle mechs that came about because of this were extremely sophisticated, not only in terms of the materials that made them, but in their use of these cutting-edge systems. And of all of these mechs, the one that is perhaps the greatest standout is in fact the mech that stood against the clans during their first foray into the Inner Sphere,
Okay.
when they struck the Lyran half of the Federated Commonwealth, acting as a barrier to the Falcons' greatest would-be victory on Coventry, the Banshee. But these wonder weapons, these new designs and remakes, now came at a time where they could only make so much of a difference. And the country, even as it remained unsteady at the edge of the abyss, was given a brief respite. The clans turned their attention towards Terra. This led to Clan Wolf under Alaric Ward eventually seizing the homeworld of mankind and being declared Ill Clan, becoming a new threat for the entirety of the Inner Sphere.
Hooray.
There has been an attempt to rally on Tharkad, however. Trillian Steiner Davian, one of Melissa's key advisors, the one who is usually right in her assumptions, was named Archon in the wake of her cousin's death, all while the nation descended to the lowest point in its history. In spite of this, and an unearned reputation of being nearly as dreadful as Melissa II, Trillian went on to show a much more capable streak of cunning and understanding of stellar political affairs around her.
What? She's a pet rock with a smile drawn on it instead of a, neutral line?
Unfortunately, she has been tasked with managing a political disaster the likes of which only the Free Worlds League has seen in living memory.
Seriously, at this point, you are taking over from the person who bankrupted the most wealthy place in the entire known galaxy. Congratulations, it's a boy.
And that was a state that disintegrated into warring factions for the better part of 6 decades, until the Steiner invasion. With her armies depleted, with the treasury empty, and with political rivals emerging across her own territories as the house becomes increasingly unstable, there was little the Archon could do to show off the power and authority of the Lyran Commonwealth in the aftermath of Melissa's complete mismanagement of the government.
That's because it's gone.
In this space, in the years immediately after her cousin's death, it looked as though Trillian would be potentially the last Archon of anything resembling a unified Lyran Commonwealth. Periphery regions began to break away, or expand.
The only person that comes close to this level of absolute ineptitude that I've seen so far is the Liao who gave away 50 systems to the Davians so the Davians would stop kicking their face in. It's the only time I've ever seen something approaching this level of absolute stupidity and just complete incompetence.
At the expense of the Commonwealth. The successor states to the reviled Rimworld's Republic, the Timbuktu Collective and Rimworld's territories being the primary examples and beneficiaries to this. However, another problem emerged, one that is far more pressing, with the arrival of a new, massive breakaway region.
Oh boy.
Clan Jade Falcon's territories had imploded with their defeat on Terra, as almost all of their warriors had been relocated for their assault there, and this power vacuum, unfortunately, sucked nearby wayward Lyran forces into it. Some regions began to resist Tharkad's rule nearby, too, pushing back against the century of poor leadership. Instability was rampant. Duke Vidette Brewer seized power within these new hinterlands, in a region named the Vesper Marches, creating an openly defiant government.
No shit, M1.
General Sarah Regis and the 26 Arcturian Guards reforged the Tamar Pact, one of the foundations of the Lyran Commonwealth, as an independent state, free from both the Falcons and Steiner rule.
Seriously, the fumble on this football is absolutely epic in scale. There is so much that had to have gone wrong, that had to have been piss poorly managed in order to have this happen. This is cascade failure on a terrible scale.
Elements of Clan Jade Falcon 2 survived in this new mess of the hinterlands, though the most damning breakaway state appears to be the Ark Royal Coalition.
True, Vanilla.
Led by resurgent Kellhound's leader, Calamity Kell.
Yay!
Trillian had made offerings to all of the Lyran breakaway states and former Falcon holdings to return home, and her offer was firmly rebuffed. She hesitated to immediately leap into action to assault and occupy this region, or even to spur her troops into action, for a multitude of reasons. Tharkat had limited control over its armies, seemingly, as many acted without orders from the capital. Unfortunately, worst of all, the military had proven incapable of dealing with threats abroad almost entirely. From the Free Worlds League military to clans Wolf and Falcon, the LCAF had been found lacking in their ability to win real battles. All of these factors came together to make the Archon overly cautious, only further harming her reputation. But this was not to last forever.
Okay.
Agreed. If Trillian could have sent troops to liberate these worlds, she would have. We can't count on House Steiner to support us. Major Karl Friedrich, Advisor to Calamity Kill, October 12th, 3151. War is now on all sides of the Commonwealth, whether Tharkat likes it or not. The reclamation of wayward territories is now the firm policy of her government, even if it had been slow to act due to internal discord. There are also many actors within the state, such as Trillian's cousin Roderick Steiner or her other distant relative, Ludwig Steiner, both of whom who have their own agendas.
Ludwig, yes.
The latter of these powerful relations has propped up Trillian's government in many ways, and he, most of all, seems to understand that in order to save House Steiner, they must show strength against their enemies.
Yeah.
Enemies within the Free Worlds League, Periphery Border, the former Falcon territories, breakaway regions, and the Wolf Empire. However, the Lyran military has yet to recover from the mauling it received from the clans, and there is a genuine chance it may never. While House Steiner possesses the forges of Hesperus and several key worlds, it has lost much. The army is also questionably loyal to the head of state, and local commanders hold much greater sway than Tharkat itself. Despite having brilliant battle mechs at their disposal, such as the BNC series, especially in its current form, the army is now simply much smaller and cannot support the numbers they once had. Making things more complicated still, experienced soldiers and officers were killed by clans Wolf and Falcon, meaning many, though
Your quality, like the QA of your army, needs to be vastly improved. Let's just
not
say.
all of their formations are very green. The military traditions and histories of the army, too, were already questionable at best.
Yeah.
In the aftermath of the Federated Commonwealth Civil War, many of the innovations the Davians had instilled into the Steiner side of the military were deliberately discarded. The truth is,
Maybe because they worked.
the LCAF, if House Steiner is to survive, must evolve past what it has been. It can no longer be an army of endless material and manpower, used only to be thrown at opponents with little consideration, as it wants for both. The quality of the average soldier, mech warrior, officer, and overall commander must rise to a new level of competence in order to fight back against the darkness that now threatens to once more swallow the Lyran Commonwealth whole. Titanic battle mechs such as the Banshee are once more the face of this struggling armed force. Ludwig Steiner, the most aggressive figure in Steiner politics at this time, pilots the newest iteration of this colossus, recognizing it for its capabilities in the field, but also for what it has represented over the past century in the armed conflicts House Steiner has waged. While they may not be able to field whole armies of mechs at this quality as they once did, their highest quality can only be matched directly by clan adversaries, as they have pushed past what any other house, as of now, can construct. If the Steiners fail in their quest to restore the nation, it will not be because of its engineers, technicians, designers, or their remaining industries, as they have delivered them spectacular behemoths. If House Steiner fails now, it will be because they had become rigid over time, so much so that they could not address the crises that changed the fabric of the country. ton for ton, the Banshee can stare down any foe, bringing its ancient frame and new weaponry to bear, and breaking them down piece by piece. The real question is, can its pilots match the ferocity of their mount?
And that has been
As
historically
armies
no.
collide with their neighbors on every side of the embattled state, from the Bolin region on the League border, to the Wolf Empire, to the chaotic hinterlands and Periphery's edge, we will find out in due time if they can rise to the challenge. But even if they fail, it is clear that House Steiner has opted to not simply go into the night quietly, beaten, broken, and defeated. They will rage against the hand fate has dealt them, and that they have dealt themselves.
Yeah, I was about to say.
They will rage against the dying of the light. And should they vanish into that darkness, their fury will echo long past their defeat.
Wow. Really, Captain?
The deadliest Banshee devised in its long 700-year history, the Banshee 12S is the embodiment of a monster. Built with the highest quality components available to the Inner Sphere as a whole in terms of its core construction, and designed to be the ultimate fusion of the BNC 3S, 5S, and 8S, this Titan will break the back of even the hardest of adversaries. To start with, it has an endo-steel internal frame, letting the mech save several tons. After this, it uses a standard gyro and cockpit, which are logical choices for the mech. Cooling-wise, it once more has the ability to dump 28 heat per turn.
Okay.
In regards to its defense, it has 18 tons of armor, once more offering 288 points of protection, while also this time having a case system on board for volatile materials. Its engine is where the real value is, as it is a 20.5-ton Clantech 380XL power plant,
Ooh.
letting it run up to 64 kilometers per hour,
Yay.
all while taking up as much critical space as a light fusion engine. This means that while losing a side torso would be very problematic, it won't immediately knock the mech out of an engagement, and may give it time to retreat, or possibly finish off the opposition it has, before dying itself. Mobile, well-guarded, and very durable despite its advanced components, its internal systems are robust to say the least. And things still get taken up a notch when we observe its other weaponry. To get started, it has twin Clan ER small lasers, with one in the center torso and one in the head.
Okay.
These hit as hard as traditional Inner Sphere medium lasers. Then it has 4 Clan ER medium lasers installed into the right torso. Once more, these functionally hit with the range and power of Inner Sphere large lasers,
Okay.
making them very reliable damage dealers to say the least. After taking account of these, it has twin Inner Sphere ER PPCs with one in the left arm and one in the right torso, followed by a Gauss rifle in the left torso with 16 rounds of ammunition. This mirrors the 3S and 5S quite closely, including potentially causing heat issues, but it's still a decent level of firepower, even for the Dark Age and Ill-Clan era.
Okay.
Finally, it retains a right torso mounted SRM-6, letting it shotgun targets that come in too close. Overall, the Banshee 12S is the best Banshee to have ever marched across a battlefield. Its fighting power cannot be matched by almost any of its peers. And while a clan assault mech might still prove to be a cut above it in some circumstances, that is a very high bar for an Inner Sphere battle mech to clear.
Yeah.
Relatively quick, very heavily gunned, and thickly armored, the BNC 12S is the ultimate manifestation of what the Banshee can become in its current form.
Okay.
It is the ultimate Steiner fighting machine at this time, and it is rightly feared.
One by fours. No. No.
In times of great danger, the best person for any job that gives life and death power over the people is usually the one trying his damnedest not to be chosen.
This is actually
From
kind of
Fighting
true
in the
here.
Commonwealth, a biography of General Edward Regis, by Eric Jolin, Scrunk Publishers, 3025.
Oh,
There's something to be said for failure. Failure teaches lessons, sometimes very hard ones, specifically to the ones who come up short. It is through failure that we learn. It is through failure that we grow. And the Banshee most definitely did grow from the time of its introduction. Originally built by the Terran hegemony for their armed forces, this assault mech was seemingly dated from the second it first walked onto the battlefield. It was a new mech, but built on old ideas. And even when a radical new approach was made, it was the wrong one, dooming the machine to mockery and obscurity. Thousands of these mechs languished for centuries in backline roles, or unwanted stockpiles. Only through the insight of designers at Defiance Industries was the Banshee given a chance to not only demonstrate its power, but to, in its own way, participate in saving the Lyran people. The one-time object of ridicule instead became the mailed fist of the Lyran state, rising so high as to become a rival of the Atlas during the Forced Succession War. This titan stood tall with the victorious forces of the Federated Commonwealth, but most notably, House Steiner, in the years after the greatest victory of the Succession Wars. But its journey hardly ended here, becoming one of the only battle mechs in the entirety of the Inner Sphere that could trade shots with the sinister and advanced clan battle mechs that struck the Great Houses in the 3050s. By the end of their invasion,
thank you, Matthew.
you would remember the
You have a
pivotal
nice one, bud.
origins of this once reviled battle mech. It transcended centuries of poor performance by becoming the mech the Inner Sphere needed most in their darkest hour. This positioned the Banshee at the top of the mountain, along with other legendary pieces of armor, finally earning it its rightful place there. Now, the Lyrans, in their time of need, have called upon this behemoth once again. Wherever the situation is at its worst, one can see the Banshee at the head of the pack, not running from danger, but into it for the sake of the citizens and soldiers who suffer in this new era of strife. The mech warriors who take up the controls of these mighty chariots now find themselves in the role of firemen, fighting to stop the flames from consuming their homes and nation. They, and their comrades, are so lucky to have this steel companion at their side. This one mech is responsible for saving the lives of millions of Lyran citizens, since its resurrection from death or slavery. It is the symbol of resistance in the face of savagery and injustice imposed from the outside. If one looks at the equipment of the army as warriors within the ranks of the military itself, fighting alongside the soldiers who rely on it, rather than just being used by them, then without a doubt, the Banshee, in its odyssey from a forgotten hulk, despised by so many, to its revival, proving its mettle as a defender of those who breathed life into it once more, has truly walked the path of a hero.
Nice.
A hero whose long watch is not yet over.
Nice.
Tomorrow's gonna be the day. Everything is in place. The pieces are already moving. I couldn't call it off if I wanted to. And, I'll be honest, a part of me wants to. This idea, a new tomorrow, it's the biggest thing I'll ever do, and it's scary as hell. The doubts I feel now are going to be shouted back at me tomorrow, 1,000-fold, and for a long time to come. I know what they'll say, that we're just another splinter of a once great nation soon to be gobbled up by one of the sharks that surround us. That we're just another upstart, pissant faction, led by a warrior queen with delusions of grandeur. That we're just some echo of a long-dead nation. a vacant idea with no identity of our own, that we're doomed to fail. But I don't believe any of that. No one with me believes that. We're committed to doing what's right, to act on behalf of those who need our protection, to show our timid leaders that fortune truly does favor the bold. I see that commitment in the eyes of those I serve with. I see the fire they carry inside, and it silences my doubt. That commitment is a promise to each other, a reassurance that our aim is true and our course is set. That commitment is the pure pact we have made with each other, and the pact will endure. Tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that.
Okay.
Video entry by General Sarah Regis. 12th of August, 3151.
Let's go. Is there about to be something good to happen for the little Steiners here? Or is this more of the famed pounding they've been taking for the past, I don't know how long at this point?
Thank you all, by the way, for joining me here today. First of all, I want to mention producing videos like this takes weeks or months worth of work, and I genuinely hope that you all enjoyed
Buck.
it. If you did, or even if you didn't, I'd appreciate your feedback, and hitting like or dislike, and leaving me a comment regarding what you thought of all of this definitely does help. I really mean it, it helps the channel out. And on top of that, I appreciate it, and I do like seeing what you guys all think. I do read every comment. Yes, even the mean ones. I do have a couple other things I want to go over here in the outro, however. Let's start with the fact that this is the first big video of 2025. If my voice breaks up at all at the moment, I am fighting a bit of a throat infection, so you'll have to forgive me.
Okay.
The original Banshee video, before this remaster, as I'm calling it, was really the beginning of me talking about the lore on the channel, and how the mechs exist within the boundaries of it. It felt right making this the first one I redid, and it also felt right to put as much effort into it as I have. It, as a mech, has become very special to me as a result, so I hope I did it, and the Lyran Commonwealth, justice in this video.
Did it?
To address a small point, there is some feedback that I get from some who don't enjoy or appreciate the hybrid videos I make, where I cover the factions and events around the factions, and how these mechs exist within that space all at once.
I don't think that that's a bad thing. You have to understand why things are done. Because if you just talk about, it's kind of like Cadia. If you don't talk about the 13 Black Crusades, if you don't talk about how Cadia was colonized, if you don't talk about how everything transpired to lead up to certain key points in the times that Cadia has repelled, then you don't really understand why it's such a big deal that it actually was destroyed.
And to be clear, it is a delicate balance to walk. It is very difficult to determine what is essential to keep the viewer informed, versus what is too much, versus what is just wholly unnecessary, and sometimes I may get that mix wrong. But I do it because I think
context matters,
don't
yes.
just exist in a vacuum. The events of the setting play into the creation of the machines, and why they get deployed, and who they get deployed against. Sometimes personalities play a big role in it too, and I just want to give people what I consider a very complete picture, while weaving a narrative into it as well, a story through and through. I also do my best to not make any mistakes, and I have a full list of all of the resources I poured through to create this video. However, sometimes they do happen. A mistake in editing, a human error in script writing, or just something not coming across as I intended can happen in these videos. The only way to be truly fully informed on these subjects is to read all of these source materials yourself. Just to be clear, I am by no means an oracle, and as I've mentioned, I am not infallible. but I want you all to know, my goal is to inform and entertain all of you first and foremost, and any small errors that may appear in video is often because of how complex the videos have become.
I can tell you
I
that
don't
is
think this one has any
often
in it,
the case.
But, did accidentally call Michael Cameron Ian Cameron in the Torian Concordat video, despite several quality checks, so you never know. However, this is the beginning of a new year as well, so I just wanted to say thank you to the entirety of the audience who watches and enjoys my videos. I never imagined I'd spend my days assembling these projects, and it's really only possible because so many of you enjoy them. So sincerely, thank you. Here's the part where I start giving shoutouts for who helped me in some way with the video, by the way. The first one is going off to Ray Arastia, the line developer at Catalyst Game Labs, who answered some of my questions earlier last year regarding this video.
nice.
And that resulted in the Coventry section of it. It even made sure the downed and dead burning Mad Cat image was made by Alan Blackwell, funnily enough.
Nice.
Speaking of Alan, I can't thank him enough for his artwork and what he's put into crafting these images for the channel. They really bring all of these projects to life.
Oh yeah.
Thank you, Alan. I'm eternally grateful. I also want to give a shout out and special thanks to Starry Tech Designs, who is the person I received permission from to use a certain number of his images for the beautiful stellar backgrounds which I use in the video. I also want to mention that all of the resources used in this video will have links to them in the top pinned comment in the comment section. I'm also going to say I want to give a huge thank you to all of the artists who've ever worked on Battletech, who've created the visual designs that we see in the setting.
It
and
is
finally,
nice.
I want to give a huge thank you to all of the YouTube channel members who support these projects. I really say this and I mean it. The YouTube channel members are what allow me to make these videos. I can't thank you all enough. On the screen, you are going to see all of the current Captain Generals who have supported this channel's art. But specifically, I want to give a massive shout out to...
Okay, so I am going to say it like this. Before this started, I knew nothing about the Banshee. I didn't even know what it was. I had no idea what it was. And that is why I'm enjoying things like this so much. And to be honest with you, things like this, it's like hearing a friend of yours talk about something that he's interested in. This style of presentation, things like that, is what got me into actually 40K. From just going to a game store and listening to somebody talk about the Death Corps Krieg, the Imperial Guard, all this other kind of stuff. It made me want to learn more. And I'm a huge foundational guy. I need to know the timeline. I need to know how things progressed, how they got to this point, how everything kind of stepped up, and how things sorted out. But all I got to say is more. All I have to say is more. I want to see more, I want to learn more, and eventually I want to start putting stuff out there. I've already talked about what my plans are as far as lore goes. I focus, when I talk about lore, I tend to do more of the people. I look at more of the people involved in lore. And I can already tell you that I would be reading some people to absolute filth in an absolute state of rage. Because how do you manage to screw this up this badly? Warpugs. Tonight the channel hit 40,000 subscribers. Tonight that happened. Tomorrow I start moving towards a new goal. And I've already decided that when we cross into 6 digits, ridiculous, absolutely insane, that is where I'm putting it. Captain Commander, X in chat to nuke this guy. Come on, man. Why? Why do you have to go there? You have to make the joke. Guys, thank you guys so much for spending time with me. You have no idea how much this means to me. I hope you guys enjoyed yourself. I hope you learned. Oh, yeah. Speaking of which, the duck pond in particular, if you've checked out the Hospitalist channel, I have a particular plan for how I'm going to dig that. And I'm going to have fun doing it, and I'm going to have a surprise at the end of it. Until then, though, guys, thank you so much for spending some time with me. Please subscribe to Big Red. Subscribe to me if you haven't. Hit the like button on your way out, and I will catch you guys next time. Now, on Friday, we have shenanigans. And I'll see some of you there. Until then, though, Warpugs, you guys have a great night, okay? Use TNT to dig the hole? Yeah. Yeah.